Hi guys, I'm Maylin Dovan, certified athletic therapist and founder of Rehab-U movement and performance therapy. We're going to talk about the infamous glute med in squats, so knees caving in during the squats. And we see a lot of that, and automatically we blame the glute med, and we stick a band between the knees and then we push the knees out while squatting when we haven't actually even looked at the foot. So let's just talk about some basics with regards to the foot and what happens when we walk, and what happens at the foot is when we take a step, the foot will actually pronate. So it's natural for the foot to pronate or roll in when we take a step, and with that comes internal rotation of the femur. So the role of the glute med is to control that when we walk. The role of the glute med is also to keep us level when we're standing on one leg, right? So if we're looking at squatting, yes, there's a contribution of the glute med, but the knees caving in, if we're seeing that in a squat, we've got to look at the feet, because if the foot hyperpronates, the knee is gonna roll in, right? So with pronation of the foot comes rolling in of the knee. In walking, we just control that. Some of that is natural and we control it. In running, we also need to control it. So the same idea goes for squatting, is we need to control what goes on at the feet. So if you're seeing someone who's squatting and the knees are caving in, first look that you should have is at the feet, and are the feet pronating, which would be contributing to that problem. So if we look at Mike's feet over here, we see an actual classic flat foot where the foot really rotates in. So the foot falls in and pronates. So if I ask him to stand just on one leg, we're gonna see that excessive pronation, right? So he's struggling to keep that foot, get that foot into supination and not let that arch fall down. Okay, so the idea is if he's squatting from this position, then it's obviously going to be difficult for him. Can you go ahead and do just a body weight squat? Just a squat. It's going to be difficult for him to control that position, right? So working the foot and working activation exercise for the foot to help create a bit of a natural arch and help create torque at the feet, which will create torque at the hips and keep those knees from caving in, all starts with the foot. So we're going to go through some activation exercises for the foot and a little bit of how we transfer that into the squat using a band as a little bit of feedback. So one exercise that I like to use to activate the foot, I'd like to start with the ball. So now here's the time where you can pull out that famous ball that you love to roll everything on, and you're actually going to roll your foot on the ball. Not to release tissue, but just to stimulate proprioception. So he would roll that foot on the ball. So stick the ball on the foot, roll around, find the icky spaces, roll it around, and we're just trying to increase sensation, increase proprioception of under the foot. Okay, so he would do that for maybe 30 seconds to 1 minute each foot. Now the activation exercise that we're going to look at is in two parts. The first part is a toe tap. So I want him to gain a little bit more sense of his toes. So what he does is lift the toes, he spreads the toes, and then he tries to tap one down, one at a time on the ground. Okay, and once he's done that a few times and gotten a feel for that, he's gonna keep those toes slightly spread out. He wants to keep a little bit of a grip on the ground with those toes. He also wants to keep his tripod, so his heel, the side of his little toe, big toe, they need to stay in contact with the ground. And what he's going to try to do is roll towards the outside border of his foot, but while keeping that grip. So naturally, if he tried to roll really far, he would just lift his whole foot off, right? Which is sometimes what happens if you stick a band between the knees and say to push through the band, because you're thinking, my glute med is weak, I need to strengthen the glute med, I'm gonna feedback that by using a band between the knees. Sometimes people will roll out onto their feet, and they're going to lose that stability and that torque that they need to create in the ground for a proper squat. So this exercise helps him create that arch in the foot and keep that contact. All right? So he'll do that for 8 to 10 reps, get a sense for that, and this is the kind of exercise that you would need to do every day and really gain better control and get better at. Once we've done that both feet, we want to try and transfer that into a squatting movement, right? So we're going to have him squat barefoot, but we're going to stick the band right under the heads of the metatarsals, pull that, get some tension in there, bring the foot back a slight bit. So we want a bit of it under Good. Those toes, and from there, that same activation that you were doing, so same position, grip with the feet, roll slightly towards the outside while keeping your contact, and from there, perform your squat. You can go ahead and do a body weight squat. Okay. So now we see, now he's got really flat feet. His feet are still flat. That's his structure, right? But we don't see as much change where that arch is falling in and he's falling into pronation. We're seeing a little bit less change. It's not perfect yet. This would be a work in progress, right? But we're trying to create that stability through the feet, and that's how we know that we're gonna prevent those knees caving in if we've determined that it's coming from the feet falling in. All right, that's good, thanks. So if you have someone squatting with the knees caving in, before you stick a band between their knees and have them push out, have a look at their feet and make sure that you work on the feet, activate those feet, create that arch, create that grip, create that torque, which will run up through the hips, and therefore you'll get your glutes in the program. But the work starts with the feet. So stop blaming the glute med, look at the feet first.